Yeah, I've got a couple of poems for you tonight, so to finish the night off. The first one's called The Spoken Word. The spoken word should not be heard without a little ounce of doubt, for talking is so very cheap when there's nought to talk about. But still these souls, these merry souls, pile word on top of word, so that screams as large as elephants are lost and can't be heard. But you just claim they're merry, these kind and gentle souls, so why on earth the screaming, the ache for lusty blows? Why do you feel like sitting in the corner, dark and cold, where the silence can be deafening to the young and to the old? Well, silence doesn't judge me, doesn't talk like I'm not there, climbing every single second like sweet Rapunzel's hair. Silence may be cold and dusty, put in a corner on its own, but words that come from silence will always find a home. Words that are considered, laid gently on the tongue, will grow as they're repeated, like the wayward and the young. They'll grow as they get older, as the truth within them shines brighter with each rendition, through the best and worst of times. Now, aren't you overstating credence, giving power to these words that are a little more than gestures, they're gestures to be heard? Aren't you giving life to monsters built inside your head? For words are simple creatures that die when they are said. Words are just a conduit, they brought us from our caves, ours to play with how we like. They're little more than slaves. But slaves revolt. They fight back. They see the truth that hides inside, for captivity makes such little sense built on the back of lies. So I will take my place upon that dusty corner seat and listen as the spoken word carves its own defeat. But if we're ever talking, ever shouting to be heard, then you and I will miss what's said. We'll miss every single word. Okay, so yeah, the irony of that poem coming off before this one is hopefully be shown. This poem's called Shakespeare is a Twat, so slightly I'm not really following my own ideas. Okay, here we go. Shakespeare is a twat. Do I want to do this? Yeah, okay, I do. Yeah, I do. Shakespeare is a twat. I remember that from school, for it was my friend Will who advanced that kicking mule of an idea of a fully fledged opinion, like the little god he was, and me, his little minion. Shakespeare is a twat, he said, as he twisted his blonde locks, because he wrote so many fucking words that most of them got lost in a pickle, wild goose chase, sanctimonious. Oh, give over, mate. You should have invented something real, like an aeroplane or the fucking wheel, not just turned verb to noun, because who invents a fucking sound? You should have built a fucking bridge like Isambard What's-His-Face did. Shakespeare is a twat, Will went on, his spittle flying through the air. He was, I said, though I wasn't sure. In fact, I didn't really care, for if Will had said the bard of yesteryear had fucked a goat on Yarmouth Pier, I would have asked how hard, how long, never doubting how it had gone on. Shakespeare is a twat, Will cried. The fucker wrote such fucking lies. Did he need to kill them so? Poor Juliet and Romeo, lovers left to lie abashed, blood running from the ugly slash of the knife he put within their fold. The thought of it still leaves me cold, and all I want is to hunt him down and ask him why. Why was it allowed? But no one knows when he fucking died. His tomb a scripture full of lies. Shakespeare is a twat, Will said, because he spent his time writing plays about fairy kings and fairy queens and stuck-up dried Athenians and families so entrenched in war that to take a bride was to take a whore. And then there was that foolish fuck he named that little bugger Puck. The twisted knave of Oberon, his magic juices going wrong. Shakespeare is a twat, Will said, sat at the back of class as we shouted down those in front. Calm down, it's just a laugh. We called our fellow players our mechanical parade, and names the likes of Shakespeare would have killed to have made. Shakespeare is a twat, we'll muse, a rat basking in the lost elude, a golden lute strung in his lobe, the twattish son of the burning globe who didn't teach his kids to read, the actor man of the Stratford streets and barely ever touched his wife, too busy dressing up in life, dressing up that Scottish king. Oh fuck, oh no, he's gonna mention him. Macbeth, 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 Will shouted, stood upon his desk, not afraid to sing his name, so caught up with his childish game. For how can I be cursed, he said, when I have nothing left? How could life get any worse? So come and strike me with your curse. Macbeth, 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 I cried, standing at my hero's side. Him with those 3 inches more, me a scamp at 5'4", singing out to Shakespeare's ghost, do your worst to us both, curse us with rhinoceros, 3 witches blushing hot, a nod to James and all of those touched by Guy Fawkes' plot. Macbeth, 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 I said again from his side, aping my invention, my heroic Shakespearean knight, my Henry of the battlefield, my chief of Agincourt, my barefaced blushing bandit with his lustrous madcap call. I followed him most everywhere, the Mercutio to his Veronan air, the backward glance to his forward step, the broken lance one does forget when the hero rides with his victim down to claim the right to wear the crown. Oh, place that's marked in history books by the grubby-fingered, ink-stained fools. Hurried on to hobnob where the green-eyed champion gilds his hair. Shakespeare is a twat, Will sung, with excitement of the birthplace drum. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day, trapped within this deep malaise of studying your fucking plays, when all we want is to escape and torture those we do forsake with moonbeam verse, the stolid ode, the summit of our swaggered road, to paint the pictures of ourselves with equivocal well-stocked shells of words we chose to undress, not your jaded poetic text. Shakespeare is a twat, Will called as he strode away from the examination hall, drugged up on his own decree of his own invulnerability. And as I looked up, my master gone, my pen kept moving, I soldiered on. Shakespeare is a twat, I thought, wanting to write it on the page as I analysed poetic verse of that discontented age. Lonely in that tabled town, mine the only face not looking down, watching Will walk away, middle finger raised in display. Shakespeare is a twat, it formed above the skinny pale arm, adorned with petty Byro's kiss, the sweat besmirched cheating list. Shakespeare is a twat, Will smiled, turning like the wayward child he and I were back then, Robin Hood and his merry men. I stood to follow him on out, but was stopped by his earthly shout. Don't follow me, follow him, and all that is Shakespearean, for he has written all our lives, every story we could contrive. Shakespeare is a twat, he said, one last final time, but that man could write a story, that man could write a line. And he walked away with his blonde hair, his finger still raised in the air, leaving me with a Stratford bard and an empty place within my heart. Thank you.